Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Relevant. I'm Karima, and I'm your moderator and co-host with an amazing panel of wonderful people that are here to share what we feel is a word that's going to help change your life. I want to introduce you to my co-host, and the first one is the beautiful.
Hi, I'm Courtney.
And I'm Jeremy.
Hey family, it's Kazendi here.
Good evening. I'm Safi.
And this is the Relevant team. So let's explain what Relevant is about. Relevant is to tell you our ideas and experiences and inspirations and motivations about what we feel is relevant to life, relevant to your finances, relevant to what's going on in the world today, relevant to your emotions, relevant to your career. Relevant is relevant, and we know that the word works, the word that we speak, because we know that what you say is what you see. And so we want to share a word that's going to help you change your life. So that's what relevance is all about. We're regular, everyday people just like you, but we feel like we have something to share with you that can help your life grow better. And so today we're going to be dealing with healing and restoration. As everyone knows, there's so many things that's going on in society today, right?
Absolutely.
Society is rife with from protests to Corona to COVID-19, which is the same thing, or Rona, whatever you want to call it, from depending on what neighborhood you're from. I've heard it called everything. I think only in the black community can Corona get a short name. It's like Rona and then Ron. Like we give a nickname, but that's neither here nor there. But we wanted to just like kind of give people some tips and some tools and some things that we've used to deal with some of the anxiety and angst. So what we do is we collect information and questions from people all across the country, really, not just here in Atlanta, and we're based in Atlanta. We don't just get questions from people that are local. We get them from all over. And we decided to kind of pare them down and answer the question that we hear the most. So one of the first questions that we had was they wanted to know, how can we deal with the hurt, anxiety, and pain associated with the turmoil that's happening? There's so much going on in the world, and people are feeling a lot of angst. And so I want one of my panelists, who wants to take that up first? How can people deal with that?
I think one of the ways people can deal with that is that they need an outlet. People usually don't have an outlet to deal with whatever it is that they're dealing with in life. And we have to have some type of understanding on what's going on right now, or what's going on in society. So that way we'll know how to navigate it, because it seems to me that people don't know how to navigate it. And that's one of the reasons why you have the rioting and you have the protests. You have the protesters who saying, well, we want to express how we feel peacefully. And then you have the rioters that say, well, we want to express the way we feel in our way. Is because there's not a lot of understanding, and people don't have a particular outlet for whatever it is that they're dealing with, so they don't know how to deal with it.
That's very, very true. Who wants to take that next? That's good.
All right, I guess I'll jump on real quick. We're taught that you are sum total of all of your thoughts, right?
Right.
So as Jeremy was saying, to piggyback off the whole outlet situation, there are so many different things that we can do. Meditate, sit down within yourself and think. If you're only focusing on the problem, then your world would be surrounded by that problem. Take time to do yoga. I'm not one to downward dog. Maybe that's your thing. That's not for me. For me, personally, I like to box. That's why I do, sports. Some people like to play soccer, football. Find that happy place in other activities. Yes, of course, it's not going to, help with the writing per se, but at the end of the day, it'll help you feel better. And what we're doing is trying to get ourselves right. And if each and every one of us get ourselves right, guess what? If nobody wrong, the whole problem's fixed, right? Or at least inner-wise, you're fixed. So that's my point of it. Use different activities.
That's really good, Kazendi. Very, especially when you're young and active and athletic. It works really well.
Well, I don't own a yoga mat, but if I'm upset, I'm not going to downward dog either. So how I deal with the pain and hurt, I like to write. So I typically write things down and try to go back and process them. And then I have a group of friends that I talk to, and they have a way of, really calming me down. And it helps a lot. But when you're hurt, it's kind of hard to gravitate and have someone talk to you, because you don't want to hear that, right? So I don't want to hear nothing that you have to say, because you don't know my pain. right?
Right.
And you're absolutely right. I don't know your pain. But the only thing I can do is be your friend, right? Find other outlets, find other resources. We're all friends at this table. So you have to find somebody or find that thing that makes you happy, something to take it away. So again, that's how I deal with it. And your pain is different from my pain, but that's why we're here, and we want to help you work through that. So in this world today, you need somebody. We all need love for healing and everything.
Yes, that's really wise counsel. What about you, Courtney? What do you think?
Man, I love these answers. For me personally, the way that I deal with anxiety is I own my story. I own my life. So I have the power to turn that phone off or turn the television off. I control what I consume. And so we often hear times like, you are what you eat. Well, it's the same thing. I am what I eat. If I'm watching about COVID-19 all day long, eventually I might start thinking I have COVID-19. So I just learned to own my story. I turn it off. When I'm full, I'm full. I stop eating. I push back. And that's how I deal with it.
And that's why she looks like that, y'all. So she's obviously telling the truth about pushing back from the table. Okay, so let me take that question. So I believe that whatever you focus on, you empower. And what's happening for a lot of the angst and anxiety that many of us are feeling is because we're focusing on the wrong thing. Now, am I telling that you shouldn't keep up with what's going on? To a certain extent. But when you are on a constant stream of negative news, a constant stream of things that are telling you that people are dying, that they're sick, all the protests. Now, I understand why people are protesting. And I understand the angst behind it. I understand the anger and the hurt behind it. But that's not something you can consume every single day and expect it not to affect you. And so what's happening is that, have you ever been with someone and you're having a conversation with them and you were feeling perfectly fine. By the end of that conversation, they done told you all the things that's wrong with them. And it may be taking 2 hours later and you wonder why you feel bad. You're not able to trace, okay, everything was going good today. I felt pretty good today, but you were on the phone with Negative Nancy, or you was on social media all day scrolling and watching all these videos of things that are supposed to be keeping you abreast, but is really keeping you depressed and oppressed. And so we have to be very careful. We have to guard our hearts with all diligence. What am I saying? We have to be careful about what we let get into our spirit, what we let get into our mind, what we let get into our eyes, what we listen to. And so a lot of the angst and anxiety you're feeling is not even yours. It's not even natural. It's not even from you. It's from the things that are from the outside of you. Does that make sense?
Definitely.
And so what I want to do now is I want us to take this question again. And I want each and every person to give me some feedback on what you did to help yourself deal with a situation where you were feeling a lot of angst and hurt and pain, or maybe even bitterness.
Personally, one time I was dealing with a lot of stress, a lot of anxiety, a lot of crazy thoughts were going through my mind, and I couldn't sort them. And I literally sought out a counselor. Sometimes it is awesome to just sit down and have someone who will allow you to just pour out all the thoughts. And let me tell you, I was pouring them out. As they were coming, I was just spitting them out. But when I left that counseling session, I had so much clarity. Literally like a weight came off my shoulder, and it carried me through the rest of my year, and I never dealt with that issue again. So sometimes you have to find someone that you can seek out who has wise counsel, whether that's a pastor, a mentor, a counselor, whoever, and talk to them about what's going on, and you'll find out that a lot of times it's not as bad as it seems. So that worked for me.
That's wonderful. And I want to address that too. Black folk, we have an issue with getting mental health checkups, and we have to do better. If you have diabetes or you got high blood pressure, a lot of the chronic diseases in our community, you don't hesitate to go to a doctor. But when we have issues with our mental health, we feel like we've had this stigma for many, many years in our community that there's something wrong with you. But it's not. You need to get help. You need to have a You need to be able to deal with that stuff, because what we do is we keep it inside, or we keep it in the family, and then you become depressed and you got all this other stuff, physiologically that you're dealing with from a physical standpoint, because you're not dealing with that stress. But I want to hear from Kazinde, from a young person's perspective. Tell me about a situation that you helped yourself. What did you use to get out of that space that you were in that moment?
All right, cool. Well, from a young person's perspective, I'm not sure how young this will feel to some people. So I work in a hospital. So when the whole COVID-19 started and there were people rushing in there, oh my gosh, screaming, panicking. When you work in that type of stressful environment, whether you're a hospital worker, whether you're a police officer, sometimes you have to remember that you got to leave that at the job. You can't take home every burden, every case, every image that you see at work, especially when you're dealing with these things each and every day. I had to tell myself that, look, I did what I could do. Now, pass it on to God. We're not superhuman. We can only do what we can do and then pass it forward. And developing that mindset really got me, like Courtney says, clarity. It helps me move forward after that hard day at the job. So that's what I do, Ms. Groom.
That's good. And you can stop calling me Miss Kareem. I'm only a few years older than you.
My bad.
But we're not going there. Okay, I'm going to hear from Safi. What do you got to say on that one? Give me about a situation that you dealt with, and what did you do? What did you use to help yourself get to a better space?
Okay, so let's see. I'm going to get a little deep. Something you guys probably don't know about me. My mother was a victim to domestic violence growing up. She died in 1989, and so I was there primarily all the time when her abuser would beat her, right? So as a child, you really don't have an outlet because your mother is your first point of contact, right? So the only thing I could do was just love on her. I would take her and hide her in my closet and hold her and tell her to be quiet so he wouldn't hear her and know where she was. And once he got tired of looking for her, then we would come out of the closet and I would help her clean herself up. And I learned at an early age to kind of block a lot of things out, which wasn't really good. So there was a lot of hurt. One of the biggest things I had dealt with was fear. Fear that, somebody would always die. She did pass away behind that situation. Fear of loving, right? Getting to a point where you love someone so much that they'll be taken away from you. So it trickled down into relationships, and things like that. So now I have children of my own, and I try to teach them that no one can raise you like your mother, right? So I try to teach them everything that I can possibly think of because I do not want anyone to raise my children. I have to take over, right? So, and then I learned words. So I learned how to write. So I wrote through all of the pain. I have books upon books upon books of poems, and that's just how I was able to express myself until I got to a point where I got older and I wasn't embarrassed to talk about it. So, no, I never sought counseling or anything like that because it was a taboo in the African American community to go to counseling, right? You'll get talked about and things like that. And then one other thing, you just can't afford it. Right? So, and I definitely feel everybody's paying going to counseling, you can't afford it. But now things have been improved because of suicide and things like that. So writing got me through, but also telling my story, releasing the pain. And once I was able to release it, I didn't know how many lives I touched by talking about it. And I think we tend to forget about the children in those situations. The system is set up for the mothers in the domestic violence situation, but it's not for the children. And we are the ones who need the counseling and need the talking to and the reassuring that this is not what love is, right? And I know I'm kind of getting off the hidden path, but writing helped me in being able to tell my story. So like I'm telling you, I'm probably reaching somebody else now. You don't have to deal with that. Whatever it is that you're going through, find someone, find what makes you happy, tell your story. It's not embarrassing. We're not going to judge you, but let somebody know. So that's how I dealt with a lot of the pain that I deal with in my life. I write and I release it because it feels so much better. And also another thing that I do, and I probably throw some people off, is that I've learned to pray. I've learned to pick up that Bible and find a scripture. I come from a Muslim background, and it wasn't nothing in the Quran that could help me, that I can resonate with my soul like the Word of God. So to each his own, whatever you like to do, but for me, that's my therapy.
That's good. Thank you for sharing that really, really personal testimony from you. I haven't heard from Jeremy, but I just want to touch on one thing really quickly. We can apply what she said to so many different areas of our life. In this season, children are suffering because they're watching things on television that a lot of us didn't have access to. And so they're going through a lot of angst and anxiety and pain that you may have suffered, a lot of fear, but for different reasons. It may not be in their home, but it feels like it's in their home because they're watching it on TikTok. They're watching it on Instagram. They're watching it on Facebook. They're on the internet. So a lot of those same challenges children are having now. And we have to, talk about that maybe in another episode. What do we do? How do we protect our children? How do we guard them from everything that's going to touch them spiritually, mentally, and emotionally that will affect them? But Jeremy, give me tell me about an instance where, what did you do to help you move past pain or some things that you went through?
Like Safia, I have a little bit of a personal experience. I'm from New Orleans, and I grew up in the Ninth Ward area of Florida projects. And my dad died when I was only a year old. And I think about it now, I never realized that I had trauma. I never realized that I was dealing with trauma. I didn't realize that until I got older, of my dad passing away. But I grew up different. I guess that people always told me that God had a calling on my life. I'm soft-spoken. People say I'm a big guy. I don't really talk that loud. I'm not really like the type to express myself a lot. Even now, one of my best friends in the world, she always tell me, I can't really figure you out. You don't really express yourself a lot. And obviously something that I'm still dealing with today. But as a young person, it was hard for me navigating in the society where I didn't fit in. I had people that I grew up around people that like rap music, being rambunctious. I was quiet. I was humble. I like to read. I like to be comfortable in my own thoughts. And that didn't resonate with the people around me. But later on, those things and not dealing with it led me to incarceration. So while I was incarcerated, I met this man named Dan Inger. And he's a good man. He's one of the best men I ever met. He's made one of the greatest impacts on my life. It's been many people, but he's made one of the greatest impacts on my life. And he told me about this thing called Toastmasters International. It's a gavel club, and they do public speaking. Yeah. He was like, yo, man, I think you should check it out. This might be something for you. And for me, I'm like, yo, I don't really do that, man. Where I'm from, people don't do that. But when I stood up there and I started to speak, the first thing we did was an icebreaker. I was like, yo, I like doing this. I like doing this. And it was a platform for me. I was able to be creative. I was able to tell my story, tell my testimony, tell people where I'm coming from or what I've been through, the things I've dealt with. But, man, it was hard growing up knowing that God said he called you and he knew you when you was in your mother's womb. These things I didn't know then, but I know now. And it was just so hard for me to navigate. Even now, I have to tell myself to speak, express yourself. Say what's on your mind, because it's really hard, man. I'm 25. I was born in the year 95. I'm a 90s baby. There isn't a lot out there that's catering to our needs. There isn't a lot out there specifically for us, so we really have to be trailblazers.
Right.
So that's what helped me speaking, writing. Writing was a part of that speaking, write speeches, everything, man. It really helped me. Talking to people, being vocal.
Yes,
That's what helped me.
yes.
Yeah.
Like
So-
on the screen.
Yes. Well, let me, I'm going to touch back on that. But first, I want to take a minute to let everybody know that you're watching the Relevant show, The Word Works. And this is an amazing panel of men and women that are here to give you our view of life and what we've learned and the things that we've been poured into so we can pour back into you. And so let me just, and we're on every Tuesday at 9 p.m. So let us go to our street team. And they're going to be on the streets. We have some amazing street team for our Relevant reporters. And let's go to them and find out what's going on in the streets in our communities.
What's up, everybody? This Chris with the Relevant Street Team. We're going to be Sean Tyler, Sean Teach, Profile State. So I have one question for you. How you doing?
Hey, how you doing?
So I got one question for you. How do you think God can restore the black community from all that's been done due to systemic racism of the people?
Well, it first starts with us as a people and as the body of Christ. If we only change from our wicked ways, which the word of God says, God will begin to do a work in the land. We need to all humble ourselves and do what we need to do as the body of Christ. So we also need more men and women of God. Even right now, you don't see a lot of ministers and pastors that are, doing a lot of online things and out here in the communities. I understand about COVID, but right now, the world is hurting, and we need more strong people that God is using to come out and speak the gospel, whether it's in the corners or whether it's in the stores or whether it's on your online TV. So we need it, and because our people are hurting. We're hurting from everything. So I mean that's exactly it.
Hi, I'm Esther from the Relevant Street Team, and I have a question for you. So, do you think God plays a role in healing our people from injustice?
I believe that people's faith has the bigger role and the only real role in how people react and how they fix or create injustices. I don't believe that God takes an active role, but it's definitely a major influence in that scenario.
Okay, thank you so much. Hi, I'm Esther from the Relevant Street Team, and I have a question for what's your name? Trey. So, with everything that's going on right now, do you think God plays a role in healing our people from injustice?
Yes, I do. I feel like that if people believe in God, they'll believe in the movement. And not only do they believe in the movement, but you have to take the right actions and the right causes so you can have a good effect. I feel like that as a in the black community, in the black society, we should be the front runners, the front leaders, just because of how strong we are. Not saying that all the other races are not strong. I'm just saying we have so much on our plate, our belt, everything, and it's all negative mostly. So why not rewrite history and put nothing but positive on that belt?
Right.
On our chest.
Oh, thank you. I really appreciate that.
I appreciate you.
That's relevant.
Wow. Those were some powerful answers. So what I want to do this week is I'm going to flip it up a little bit. And I want the team to answer the questions that are people in the streets and see if we have similar responses or maybe not. So as you know, we asked them, do you think God has a role in helping our community heal from injustice? And the other question was, what can God do to help our community restore what has been lost due to systemic racism and abuse? Yeah, those were some good questions. So who wants to take that first one? I'm just going to get a couple of responses. Who wants to take, do you think God has a role in helping our community heal from injustice?
I think God does have a role in helping our community heal from injustice, but the responsibility is on the people. The responsibility is on the people. God provides the resources and the power to do his work. So if we don't have people that's willing to go out there and do the work, it's like God's hands are tied. So God is still involved. We serve a sovereign God. That means God is in complete control at all times. So yeah, he has a role to play. But will we include him in the role that we play?
Woo.
Right.
That's a word. That's a good word.
Right.
So what do you think, Courtney?
I think that Jeremy said it so beautifully. I think that what God's role is in this whole matter has already been done. It was done a long time ago. He gave us the instructions on how to heal and how to bring restoration. And so like you were saying, Brother Jeremy, it's like, are we going to rise up and take the responsibility and do what we need to do, which is, first and foremost, admit that there was a wrong. Secondly, forgive, apologize, and then love from there.
That's good. So, Fafsi, I think I'm going to have you and Kazinde tackle the other question. See, let me go back, because that was really good. That was really good. They're like looking at me like, what can God do to help our community restore what has been lost due to systemic racism and abuse? Now, you heard what was on the street. What do you guys think about that?
What hasn't he done? We're saying what can he do as though the Lord today isn't the same Lord yesterday as he will be tomorrow. Everything that has been done, will be done, has already been done.
Hey.
So it's like he said
On
before.
earth as it is in heaven.
Right. Go ahead.
So it's as Jeremy said with the last question, it's our part. The Lord has given, it's two parts to everything. There's faith and then there's work. He cannot, once he's led you to the water, he can't make you drink. So you're talking about this whole injustice, you're talking about this pain, what's God's role? Well, when he died on that cross and took all those sins, he said, as he's dying, he looked up, he said, one, the work is done. So that answers my question that it's done. But he said, Lord, forgive them, for they know not what they are doing. So if he can forgive all of his oppressors, all of those who did these terrible things to him on the cross, and he was blameless, then what more those who treat us with injustice? What more those who treat us, lesser than because of the color of our skin? What more those who oppress us for whatever the reason may be? Our job is, like Courtney said, to forgive. Our job is to learn to love our neighbor. Our job is to learn to love our neighbor, not that, all right, I guess I love you. I guess it's all right. No, love your neighbor the same way you love yourself. When I look in the mirror, I'm happy. You should be happy.
That's good.
All right, let me stop. But yeah, love your neighbor as you love yourself. So it really comes down to that core teaching where, again, it's not saying, it's easy to turn the other cheek, but we have to, guys. We have to come together. We have to realize that the only way to stop hate is love. There is no shortcut. There's no, well, maybe I can try this, or maybe we tried. Okay, that's how we got here. We tried all the other ways. It didn't work. So at the end of the day, we have to learn that, look, it's either love or continue to hate. And if we're going to continue to hate, well, there will be more injustice. There will be more pain. There will be more suffering. And that's my answer to that. So,
Good answer.
now.
So let me read that again, because I know we just heard that, and sometimes you forget the questions that people responded. So what can God do to help our community restore what has been lost due to systemic racism and abuse?
It's not God. It's what can we do?
Right.
It's what can we do, and it's a learning game. It's everything goes back to the fundamentals of learning, and stop blaming. It's a blame game. It's that finger pointing, and you forgot that when you have that one finger pointing at someone else, the other one's pointed back at you, right? So we have to work on that. It's ownership, accountability. So God, like everyone said, God has done his part. It's now time for us to do our part. And I'm pretty sure you're like, well, how can I do that? I don't know about this. I don't know about that. Trust me, I didn't either, right? And again, like I said, it's a learning thing. So you have to find the resources so that way we can stop blaming and learning. Pick up a book, and it's called the Holy Bible. Just pick it up and just read it. And it's not his fault. It's part of it is our fault for lack of knowledge, right? So we just have to teach ourselves or find someone to help us and stop blaming someone else and accept it.
Okay. So I want to touch on, it says something about restoration. How do we restore what's been lost? And I think everybody gave good answers, but I want to add another element to it. See, restoration is based on a perception that someone has the ability to take something from you, whether real or perceived. And so whatever we lost, or what we feel that we've lost, or in terms of opportunities, wealth, and resources, no one can give us what we won't demand for ourselves from ourselves. Meaning no one will give us restoration. We create restoration by how we position ourselves in our communities, how we position ourselves in our legislature, how do we position ourselves in our Congress, how do we raise up a community of people who know God, who love him, who have a moral compass to do what is right. So racism is only able to, and systemic racism only happens because you have people that don't have moral character, who don't have a moral compass, who don't have integrity in office, and so or in corporations or in organizations. And a lot of those same people proclaim to love God. And so what we have to do is start to teach something that Steffi's always advocating, to teach and to train and to give people understanding of the compass and the guide and that they use to make decisions in wherever they are in the marketplace. And if you're in a job and you see people that need an opportunity and you look the other way because they're from your community, you're afraid they're going to hurt you. And believe me, I was told that. You know, you better not hang out with too many black folks if you're trying to be upperly mobile in the corporate. You have to make a decision that my moral compass won't allow me to do the status quo. I'm going to do what's right and trust that in me doing what's right, I make this right decision and I'm able to open up doors. Does this make sense? Absolutely. Thank you so much, Street to Team. We have an amazing street team, and we look forward to you adding more from around the country. And if you want to be a part of our street team, just send us a message and we'll talk to you about it. So let me tell you about something, and I think we have to deal with this because we'll give you guys, ways that we have been overcoming. But I also want to just minutely touch on this before we go into our next segment, is a lot of us are not touching on it, and it comes out in explosive rage. And a lot of the rage that we're seeing on the streets, it has absolutely nothing to do with the George Floyd murder. It's rage that's been held in for a long time.
The bottle effect.
Yeah, and so what's happening now is that I have all this rage, I have all this anger, I have all these things that I've never dealt with, and now I have this outlet. So let me protest. Not that the protest is wrong, but I'm protesting about my own inner pain. I'm protesting about my own inner turmoil, and it's manifesting, and that's why some people, when they protest, it becomes riotous because they're so angry and they're so mad, and that momentary release of that anger, which is not healthy, but is real. And so what we do, and I'm glad you touched on that and you did too, is that I pray. If you believe that everything about your life starts and ends here, you won't have an anchor. But if you know that there's something beyond this life, then it gives you an anchor. There's someone that created you that wants your mother and father. It gives you an anchor. And what's happening, I see with a lot of our young people, they don't have an anchor. And because they don't have that anchor, they're reaching for whatever, and they're drowning. And they don't have anybody to pick them up. And so what we want to do through Relevant is give you an anchor. Give you something to hold on to, so when you're going through that, when that rage is bubbling up inside of you, that you understand that there's someone that could hold it, that you can turn it over to someone and they won't tell anybody, they won't make you feel some kind of way about it. So I want to close this segment up. There's so much more we can talk about it, but if you tune in every Tuesday at 9 p.m., you'll get some more. So I want us to turn in. We're going to, flip the script a little bit. We're going to do a musical spotlight. We got DJ Aaron Beats. He has an amazing artist that he's going to be spotlighting today, and I want you guys to check him out.
All right, what's going on, everybody? This is Aaron Beats right here on the ones and twos, and tonight we have 21 Stay Down for our up-and-coming recognitions, and he's a former gang member who has now turned over a new leaf, now leading the Sheep back to God. So 21 has been leading the people back in the streets, back to God, and he's just been trying to express himself through his music and showing the people that God is real. So without further ado, we have 21 Stay Down with The Light.
Watch how we shine for the king, yeah. We pulling up with the team, watch how we shine like a ring, yeah. Satan, we out of your league, forever the blood we gon' bleed, yeah. When you out here harvesting seeds, I'll scope part like the seed, yeah. We got the go, got the gleam, watch how we shine for our king, yeah. We pulling up with the team, watch how we shine like a ring, yeah. Satan, we out of your league, forever the blood we gon' bleed, yeah. When you out here harvesting seeds, I'll scope part like the seed, yeah. I surrender all, to my knees I fall, for you love us first. In all our flaws, before the death of Jesus, before Moses' laws, before Adam met Eve, you knew about the cross. See, I was super lost, you paid a super cost through your begotten son. All the sin was brought. See, faith is more than thought. See, faith is more than talk. It's a combination manifested in the walk. I had to break my outer man and let your spirit talk. The only way to serve every day of Pentecost, a new way of life. The old way got tossed. Had to deny myself and accept you was boss. We got the go, got the gleam. Watch how we shine for the king, yeah. We pulling up with the team. Watch how we shine like a ring, yeah. Satan, we out of your league. Forever the blood we gon' bleed, yeah. When you out here harvesting seeds, I'll scope part like the seed, yeah. We got the go, got the gleam. Watch how we shine for our king, yeah. We pulling up with the team. Watch how we shine like a ring, yeah. Satan, we out of your league.
Yeah, okay, so again, that's 21 Stay Down. You can follow him on his Instagram page at 21 Stay Down 1K. And this song can actually be found on Spotify. Just type in 21 Stay Down and you'll find the song The Light.
Wow, that was yeah. I'm trying to do a little bit of something. Let me just introduce our comment curator, Dejanay, who was in the comments making all kinds of comments with you guys. She's interacting with you guys. And I forgot to tell you about something that's really wonderful. We have a free gift for you. So we believe in, the Word of God, and we practice what we believe in. So I have like 10 scriptures, and we have like my declarations, some daily declarations that you can say that can help your life become better. So if you would like those scriptures or daily declarations, just put your hands up in the comments, and our comment curator, Dejanay, will make sure you get them. Please give us your email so we can keep in contact with you, and we can send you daily updates or weekly updates of some things we feel like can help you move forward in life. So what's next, guys, is the comments Q&A. Yeah, we love this segment. We love this segment because we are answering your questions live in the comment sections. Dejanay has been, our comment curator has been gathering questions, and she sent me quite a few. And so I'm just trying to decide which one to bring to the panel today.
Make sure it's good.
Okay, well, I had someone that said, you guys are talking about forgiveness, but I can't forgive the police for what they've done. Wow. So what should we say to this person? Thank you so much, Candace, for turning that in. And someone help us. Because there's people that don't, forgiveness is hard for them, so.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I would like to take that. Again, talking about what I dealt with as a child. I had to forgive the man that beat my mom for so many years, right? So it's hard to turn the other cheek, trust me, because the things that I have imagined doing to that man, it's I'll probably be going to hell by now, to be honest. But you just have to really, I'm going to talk about Kazindi. If you know yoga, that's an upward dog position. No, you just have to find a resolution. There you go. Find a resolution. And I know it's hard. I know it's hard.
I want to touch on what you just said, Safi, because it's so true. Let me, guys, give you something that is not always palatable. Some things that are truth that will help us we don't want to hear. But the reality is that your hating another person doesn't hurt them. It only hurts you. And unforgiveness is like eating rat poison and expecting someone else to die. And a lot of people are angry at people that are living their life, progressing and prospering, and you're mad and angry. And I'm not saying I don't understand your hurt, your pain, in your anger, and may be justified. Something may have happened to someone in your family member. I'm not going to do it but episode, I'm going to tell you some things that happened to my sons at the hands of police officers. Yet, if I don't choose to love them or to forgive them, it only hurts me. There's not, to hold someone in bondage means your hands are holding them. That means you can't get anything in those same hands that you're holding somebody else captive with. And so if you want things to pour into your life, you got to let other people go. And a lot of people, and that's again back to that rage that's happening in the streets. You've been holding people up so long, you think it's because you're mad at them. It's really because you're really upset with yourself because you haven't allowed yourself to receive all the good things that could be coming to you if you would let go. And so I encourage you. I'm not saying that it's easy. And then let me cancel this myth that things that are worth it are easy. I don't know where that lie came from, but it needs to be stopped. Anything in life worth having is going to be hard. So get over this kind of, everything needs to be easy. Life doesn't work like that. Okay, so Courtney, what do you think about that?
I think that was a wonderful explanation. Unforgiveness, I think what I had to learn is, like you said, not for the other person, it's for me. But I think that sometimes we believe that if I forgive you, then I'm saying that what you did was okay. And so I think that's the hardest part for us to reconcile.
Absolutely.
And that's why we find it difficult to forgive others. But you can absolutely forgive someone. And in forgiveness is selfishness, honestly, because you are doing it for yourself and not for them. But it's not you canceling what they did. It's not saying that it was okay. And I think if we look at it from that perspective, that, okay, I'm letting you go for my own sanity, for my own health, because when we harbor unforgiveness, science shows that eventually turns into stress, which leads to heart attack. Sometimes it leads to strokes. A lot of things that people are suffering is because they refuse to forgive. So you have to forgive other people, understanding that you can't control someone else, you just control you. And I'm not saying, like you said, that it's easy or that it's right, but you got to let go for yourself, so that you can live to see another day. And that's all I have to add to that.
That was some good adding. So what do you think, Jeremy? What do you got to say about that?
I want to stick to this topic of the question. The lady said, she said that it's hard to forgive the police.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. She said she couldn't. It was hard. She said she couldn't.
I would tell her that you are holding up progress. Your unforgiveness is holding up progress.
Wow.
And making that statement is hard for me to say that as a black man, dealing with police officers.
Being incarcerated.
Yeah. I've seen some nasty stuff come from these people in these uniforms. But that unforgiveness is holding up progress, because it's hard for you to move forward when you have that weight of unforgiveness wrapped around your neck. It's not on your feet. It's not on your waist. It's on your neck. Wherever you turn somebody's neck, that's the way they're going to go. And if this is wrapped around your neck, it's hard for you to move forward. That's actually one of the biggest issues that we are dealing with right now in our community. It is hard for us to forgive.
Right.
It's hard for us to move on. It's hard for us to say, all right, this is where we've been, this is where we are, and this is where we're trying to go, because we're still stuck on this is where we've been.
Right. Ooh.
That was good.
That was good. Because then they want to hear from another young black brother. Come on.
Let me do this.
Yeah, get them together.
Logically speaking.
Y'all ever been in class and then you listen, like teacher asks you the question, and all the students say your answer, and you're just like, it's one of those moments right now. So, all right. Here's what I'll do. I'll summarize. I'll build on each. I'll piggyback off of each person's answer. I'll start off with Jeremy. He's right. You really are holding up progress, because there's this thing saying that there are no good cops, or if there's a good cop and the good cop watches a bad cop do something wrong, then that guy's a bad cop too. Y'all gotta realize that power sometimes changes people, right? But don't let the people in power have that power over you. We have to learn to be proactive, not reactive, my people. Like, for me to hate you, I have to react to what you did. Instead of me deciding, hey, you know what? I'm just not going to forgive you. Okay, cool. I'm not going to forgive you. Like Courtney said, scientifically speaking, that leads to stroke, leads to heartache. But let's take it back. Your unforgiveness isn't paying your bills. Your unforgiveness isn't feeding your children. Your unforgiveness isn't fixing the situation. So I'm going to sit here and be mad for what reason? Like I was saying the last time. Again, no one here is saying it is easy to forgive. Like Safi, I heard her story and wanted to do things to this. I'm like, I don't even know. I'm just like, But I have to realize that this feeling, this anger, who am I helping, you know? Like, you have to learn that sometimes we have to bite that bullet. Sometimes we have to turn the other cheek. Sometimes we have to realize, you know, it's not fun. It's not easy. And let's be honest, it hurts sometimes, you know? Sometimes it feels like me deciding to let go of this pain. I'm this excuse that I have to just, you know, be angry, this excuse that I have to not move forward, it's no longer mine anymore. Once I decide to let go, I can't make that excuse that, oh, the police did this, or, oh, I'm angry at that. I'm losing that comfort in that excuse, you know? Once you let go of that, hey, you have no other choice but to move forward, but to think of a solution. And sometimes not even as just African Americans, as people in general, we don't want that burden of, well, now that I'm not mad, I got to fix something, because if you're not mad or reactive, you got to do something, right? I don't want that responsibility. And sometimes how we feel, well, let me just hold on to this just a little bit longer. Let me just hold on to this pain. Let me give myself an excuse to not do something. But people, if we're really going to move forward, it takes more than one, but it starts with one. It starts with us. It may take more than one person. Oh, well, like, I hate when people say, well, my vote doesn't matter. If everyone says their vote doesn't matter, guess what? We don't have
collectively.
An election. Like, your vote does matter. What you do does matter. It starts with you. And once you realize that hurt, that pain comes a little bit easier. And no one's saying, I forgive you, and it's just that. Take it one step at a time, you know, one day at a time. The world wasn't built in a day. Like
7 days, but, you know, depends on who you ask.
I can't say that it took me 30 years to forgive. But throughout that 30 years, I noticed, now I can look back and see, you know, some of the things that I went through. I didn't go through really hard times, but it was hard. It was rough. And that moment that I did forgive, it's like you see the light. It's a burden lifted. You can actually smile, right? So all the times you see people smiling, that's dealing with the hurt, is so much hurt behind that fake smile. So now when I smile today, it's all truth, because I released him, right? And it felt so good. But it takes time. And we're not saying to rush the process. We're not saying anything like that. And it's hard to forgive the police, the cops who are involved. Coming from working for the Los Angeles Sheriff's Department, and I used to see what happened. And I would go home like, dang, they do that to these people. But it's a process. It's definitely a process. And find someone that you can talk to. Again, I'm an advocate with speaking to people, talking through your situation, because that's the only way that we're really going to heal. That's a rehabilitation process, is getting out there and talking to someone. Say, hey, I cannot forgive these people. What can I do? And the worst type of bondage is the spiritual bondage. And that's what you're putting yourself in every time you don't forgive. So it's hard, and trust me, I feel your pain. I'm not perfect. We're not perfect. And we're not saying turn the other cheek and keep it moving. It's a process.
Yes, so I'm going to disagree with her on a couple of things. I think it's hard, but it doesn't have to be. I think too often, because I know a man, And I know a thing that you can do and a person you can turn it over to be. Because what I don't want us to always rely on that process, because too many people would make a process take their whole life, not understanding that you don't have to be in bondage and you don't have to go through 100 steps to get to where you need to be. If you believe it, that's what you're going to get. But I want you to know that there's a way that you can be over what you're dealing with today. And there's a place that you can find, there's a place that you can turn that angst and that bitterness over with, and you don't have to hold it. So yes, there's a process for those people that believe they need a process. And some people like a process because you've got so accustomed to that person, and I'm calling it a person because for some people, that's your best friend, your anger and your hurt and your past. And I'm not saying it didn't happen, because one of these episodes in the future, when I tell y'all some real stuff, y'all gonna be like, how are you even walking around? I'm telling you. You just don't know what people have been through by looking at them. But what I'm telling you, don't hold on to. Yes, it could be a process, but I'm telling you, you don't have to hold on to that. Because I know a man, I know a place that you can go to. I know someone that you can go to that can take care of that stuff like that. It depends on whether you believe it or not. So
it's not a drug.
It's not a drug. It's not a drug. It's not true. Thank you for that. Thank you for that. Thank you for that bag up. I appreciate it. You don't have to hold on to it. So, but it's also about knowing who your identity is and who you identify with. And next week's episode is going to be identity versus identification. And a lot of us are dealing with the identification to our situation and identification to our hurt and identification with our pain, not understanding that you can be free today. You don't have to go through it forever. Because I've known people who their whole platform is telling you that it's a process, but you've been paying them to help you through this process. And so I don't want you to feel like you can. I'm not dismissing anybody that's going through and it's taking you some time. All I can say to that is that you probably need to get with some people that we know that can help you navigate through it a little bit quicker. Because there's a lot of things that people are telling you to take time because it benefits them. You know, look, ain't nobody no licensed therapist up here. I'm just a license in life. And I know in life, you don't have to go through some things that we've been going through. And we've been accepting it and believing that we have to hold on to some stuff that we ain't got to hold on to. Now, be that as it may, we're coming to the end of our program.
Already?
Oh, man, I know. Can you imagine? So like I did last week, and I will do this every week, I need everybody just to give me 1 minute. Just, I don't know, just of all the things that we talked about tonight, just give me 1 minute. Just, we're going to start over here with Safi. Everybody give me 1 minute.
Okay, so to sum up tonight, the only thing that I can say is find a support group. Find a support group, a small group, people that you can trust, right? Because not everybody is your friend, and you can't trust everybody. So someone that you can really trust. And hold on to those people and use them for what they're worth, because everybody has something that they're going through or have been through that can teach you or show you how to deal with it, right? And to make sure that you're just loving on one another. That's it. And keep smiling. Don't ever stop smiling like me.
Gene, go ahead, Kazindi. What do you have to say?
All right, I'll keep this one for pretty simple. Lean on me, Billy Weathers. But on a serious note, what I took away from this is, again, it's all about your attitude towards things, my guys. Like, let's really take the time and look at that positive outlet. Like Ms. Karima says, we do know a man. We do know quite a powerful man who went through a lot more than anything. I promise you, anything that we've been through. And what's crazy? He didn't even do nothing. Like he was faultless. But we don't get to that sometime in the later show. We don't get there. I'm gonna leave y'all with that teaser. For those of you who know, you know. For those of you who don't know, you will know. Thank you.
You can always send us a message and we'll tell you about them. Facts. Courtney, give us a summation in a minute.
I think for me, it's this. This is one of the few times I will tell you, put yourself first. And what I mean by that is just, that looks like letting it go, releasing it so that you can go to the next level in life. That's all I got.
That was good. Mr. Jeremy.
One of the things I leave you with And I don't want to just leave you with a weight, but it's a quote. Selfishness is one of the main sources of grief. It's one of the main sources of grief. And when you die to yourself, man,
Just leave it like that, Jeremy.
Ooh.
Just stop right there.
That's a cliffhanger right there.
That's a cliffhanger.
Don't say nothing.
That's a cliffhanger.
Hey, how do I come behind all these amazing?
You got it.
You know, to sum up to that last, particularly that last person with the anger, I say, do yourself a favor and do yourself a favor. And what I mean is that allow yourself to be free. You don't have to be caught up anymore. If you want to find out about this man I've been talking about, hit us up in the comments. We'll be glad to talk to you about him. There's a lot of things that's going on with our community that we've identified with. We've allowed other people to give us an identity. And the only identity that matters is the identity I have in the Creator, the person who created me, and the person that gave me a new life, transformation in every way. We want to thank you for once again hanging out with us at the Relevant Show. We hope that you found some things that were relevant to your life, that were inspirational, that were motivational, and we hope that you will share this video. We hope that you will join us again next Tuesday at 9 p.m., and we want you to send us your questions. And anybody that if you heard something today that transformed your life, if you have a testimony or something good that came out of what you heard, please send it to us. Let us know. Safi's going to be doing a new segment called Testimony Tea, and we need some tea for that testimony. So guys, thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you again next week.